most of EHS leaders are facing nowadays when it comes to control of work, the state of affairs when it comes to process safety and control of work, and then we will present you, of course, the case for an integrated control of work solution with practical applications and some use cases. Okay. And I believe, without further ado, I can ask Tom to join us.
Yeah, thank you very much for that introduction. For those of you that don't know, my name is Tom Brown and I am from Verdantix. Verdantix, we are an independent research and advisory firm that focuses in on innovative technologies in kind of the operational space. We try and be kind of thought leaders in this space and look to cover 6 key areas you can see here on the slide. For this topic, we're really focusing in on environmental health and safety and mixing that with operational excellence. If we could move on to the next slide, I will introduce one of kind of the key focuses of our research at the moment in the health and safety space. And it's this market trend that firms are failing to reduce serious injuries and fatalities at their work sites. So I want you to take a look at the graph on the left-hand side here. To explain in brief, this is a collection of data from the US, and it showcases that over the last 10 years, from 2011 to 2021, total industry recorded injury rate had dropped. So yeah, firms are doing very well if you take a look at the whole. However, if you look at fatalities and preventable fatalities, you can see that kind of progress there has stagnated. Actually, in 2021, the rate of fatalities was higher than it was in 10 years previous. So kind of this is very alarming. And when we saw this at Verdantix, we were kind of made this a real focus, right? Because at the macro level, whilst firms are making improvement overall, they're kind of pertaining to the EHS performance, their current practices are kind of failing to reduce the most prominent and damaging incidents. So we've really taken a look into this, and our view is kind of traditional safety practices, those lagging collection of data, incidents, audits, etc. Look, they're vital, both to compliance, awareness of risk, carrying out necessary actions. But when you come to preventing the serious incidents, which are often kind of more complex, there's that array of operational factors at play, such as kind of people doing incorrect procedure. There's a whole host of kind of people factors like competency or overall safety culture. And we always see that these are actually the more kind of root causes of these incidents. And we see kind of firms find it very difficult to control these using traditional kind of lagging EHS management processes. So kind of tying this back to the topic today, we see kind of addressing this challenge as one of the most powerful use cases for digital control of work tools. If we can move on to the next slide, I'll show an excerpt from our survey data. Just wait for the next slide to come in. So what's promising to see is, although these kind of metrics has stagnated over the last 10 years, EHS practitioners are motivated to take up the challenge and really kind of move those metrics in the right direction regarding serious injuries and fatalities. You can see here from this graphic, we took this from our global corporate survey, where we interviewed 301 EHS professionals. And when they were asked about the levels of priority of following goals, you can see here reducing serious injuries and fatalities came out on top. And this is why we've really made our kind of one of our main focuses of our research around SIF prevention, the challenges EHS managers face when trying to make a proactive change to address serious injuries and fatalities? And what is the key technology that can really help them drive this improvement? So yeah, at Verdantix, kind of going on, tying it back again to the control of work point, we've seen so many positive adoptions of control of work solutions. So hopefully this slide resonates with you. You're kind of driving towards zero incidents. You really want to invest strategically in EHS. You're trying to build that strong safety culture. If you're trying to do all those three things, I think this webinar can be really useful to you. So if we go on to the next slide, I really want to highlight where we see common problems when we go in and we do an assessment of kind of corporate EHS systems and programs. And typically we go in.
Tom, I just wanted to take a minute to check the slide that everybody's seeing. Do we see a slide titled "The Common Problem We See with Corporate EHS Programs"?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Good stuff. Yeah, so we go into these corporate settings and we do consulting projects for these firms when they are struggling with addressing these serious incidents. And it's interesting to see if people can relate to this, but this is the real common denominator we see. Firms are obsessed with collecting as much data as possible, right? All we hear is, oh, we do this many observations, we do this many near misses, and this is great. Data collection is great. It's critical to EHS. You do your investigations, you create actions off the back of it. Kind of that's brilliant, and kind of we see implementing an EHS management solution as a great way to streamline all those processes. But what we often see is there's a disconnect, right? You do all of this hard work to collect data, to do your investigation, to set actions off the back of it, but it gets quite isolated within the EHS practice. When it comes to actually getting this data and these insights back into the hands of the frontline worker, this is where firms really kind of fail to make this connection happen, right? Fail to complete the cycle. We tend to quiz firms on the questions on the right-hand side, right? And when we do kind of during these workshops, we get a lot of kind of difference in feedback from the EHS practitioners who think, oh yeah, this is all good, we're getting great insights, and the people on the front line. And one thing that's kind of stuck with me, one corporate kind of frontline worker said, ultimately we put all of this data in, but it flows into this corporate black hole, right? We never actually see kind of the insights that have gained from it kind of as frontline workers. And this is really the crux of it, right? Firms invest in the technology to collect and manage this data, but actually rely on very kind of old hat ways of getting the insights back to them. It's still safety meetings, it's still kind of in-person things, it's on paper forms or via emails. And this really sums up the challenge, right? I want to kind of distill it into 2 points, right? 2 questions. How do we embed risk management and safety management into the everyday operation of workers? And then I think what enables this, right? How do we make critical safety information more accessible, consumable, and impactful for workers? And I think these 2 points are highly connected. And I want to, as we go on to the next slide, I want to just go on to what we're seeing. If we go back one, one kind of very promising use case that we see at Verdantix, and this is kind of pertaining to the control of work, but taking one step back from it. For us to really kind of see the best practices here, we're going to have to look at the higher risk industries, right? The oil and gas majors, the chemical firms, and kind of we want to unpick their kind of principles. And this kind of one we're looking at is process safety management. And kind of this has become a real key drive for us at Verdantix, and will continue to be over the coming year, is to highlight to firms outside of these industries, the big oil and gas and chemicals, how technology is making it easier to adopt elements of process safety and really kind of embed this risk management principle into their safety programs. So if we move on to the next slide, just a little bit more information on process safety for those that may not know. It derived from an OSHA directive. It comprises of 14 management elements across workers' safety, operational risk management, and asset integrity. And really the goal of this is to develop a holistic insight into the inherent risks across your operations. It factors in all these relevant variables that you don't get from just EHS by itself. Kind of you can see here kind of all of these different data sources and stakeholders coming together to contribute to process safety. And this is vital when people are interacting with assets, hazardous materials, or or exposed to potential energy sources. You can see here at its most complex level, and we've really taken this from kind of the oil and gas doctrine, it means pulling together separate practices, integrating data from numerous systems, and layering this all together. And for many firms, this is kind of a challenge that is a real non-starter, right? It's just too big a fish to fry. But kind of for most firms, this level of complexity is not needed. What I really want to stress, and for you guys to take away from this, is the value in this way of thinking, right? Is unifying these different practices of operations and helping everyone think more clearly and more holistically about risk management in their everyday lives. If we move on to the next slide, I want to just touch a bit more on kind of this idea of technology being able, being the enabler for making this change, right? And we've done this via our kind of market research, and I want to introduce one of our kind of flagship studies, the Green Quadrant. And this benchmarks the top 15 vendors in the process safety management space. And I'm not going to go through all the details of this because it's an incredibly complex process. You can see that TenForce were involved, and were actually came in the leaders quadrant of our assessment. And I'm sure the people that were in that process can tell how rigorous it was. But if I'm going to kind of condense everything down into two main takeaways that kind of pertain to this whole process and this whole topic, is top solutions, the most impressive solutions, were able to support firms in two ways, right? Firstly, is integrating that operational data and really firing it through the prism of risk. So assessing all these different data sources from kind of a myriad of different systems and being able to evaluate their impact on risk. And secondly, and most importantly, is how do I condense these insights so they're effectively consumed by users on the site and can really make that impact to, okay, I'm not going to do something like this, which is unsafe. I'm going to do things with proper procedure in a safe manner. And when it comes to that second point, it's really that control of work tool that was so pivotal to enabling this. When we talk to the kind of the vendors' case studies, their clients, it was all about this control of work tool. And for those of you who don't know, that control of work originated as kind of electronic permit to work tools, but actually they've grown to become way more than that. And before handing over to Mikhail, I'm going to talk, who's going to talk through kind of TenForce's approach to this, I just want to go forward and stress 3 main benefits to digital control of work, because as we know, kind of paper permit have been around for decades. So you can see here kind of our assessment of digital control of work. I'm not going to go through all the details. You can read the bullet points as I go through. But the 3 main takeaways I want to stress and the benefits of these digitizing control of work are 3 things, right? Firstly, the consolidation and accessibility of key data. These tools do such a good job of really distilling all of that information related to one task. SDSs, risk assessments, conflicting work. In a proactive sense, this ensures that everyone is aware of the variables that could impact the risks of a particular job. In a reactive sense, if there is an incident, it allows you to really dig down and assess through this audit trail all of the information pertaining to a particular job. The second advantage, efficiency. Access to data ahead of time, kind of efficient workflows, enabling effective collaboration, typically around a mobile tool, a tablet, intuitive user interface, and most importantly, not having to go back and forth to complete forms on paper. It reduces downtime and it boosts focus on doing tasks right? Because you're not waiting around. The third and kind of almost one of the most important and differential things is the visualization of risks, their controls, and also kind of being able to give a good visualization of correct procedure. All of this information really helps for workers make the right decision at the most critical time. There's things like access to micro-learning training to ensure that they're familiar and competent with this particular asset. When it comes to doing a lockout tagout, this is really important because they may have not worked on an asset of this type before, right? It's also kind of information about simultaneous operations. There's conflicting actions, so you're more aware of what's going on and the implication to risk. This helps plan more effectively and do jobs kind of in such a more risk-averse manner. So now I'm going to hand over to Mikhail, who's going to talk a little bit more about TenForce and their approach to control of work.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, for handing me the floor. So indeed, I'm going to zoom in a bit on the TenForce approach for control of work. And I thought I started with actually listing the different data elements that we want to manage and handle within this control of work environment. So first of all, when talking about safe work practices, we want to make sure we have qualified employees or qualified contractors to execute the work. That work is typically represented by work orders. And so you want to make sure that risk assessments take place on those work orders. Work can only be executed once the necessary permits are issued. Depending on the work, also isolation plans come into place. And if you're working in a certain area, you want to be notified about any recent incidents or near misses that occurred within that area, so you can follow up on it, or you can communicate it to your operational team, for example. Then, as for operating procedures, there's your library with process documentation. So you've written out standard operating procedures or work instructions. Sometimes these procedures have been can be represented by potentially recurring tasks or instructions, so like checklists that you need to go through or inspections that you need to take. And then finally, operational continuity. So we have our shift logs that we put in place to facilitate the communication and handover between shifts. It's also where in TenForce we're logging observations, the necessary observations measurements that need to be taken to keep things under control. So it's a lot of different data, a lot of elements. Now, how do you make sure you connect all of that and you make it easily accessible for everyone within operations? So this is giving you a view, a first view. So basically, the first thing we do is we structure that data into the different modules where the processes related to those data elements take place. So we have competence management for our employee qualifications. We have contractor management for managing contractors and also their staff. Permit to work, as highlighted by Tom, is really a core module. It's where it's the entry point for your work orders. It's where your risk assessments take place. It's then obviously also where your permits are being approved and go through the necessary process. Isolation management with isolation plans, shift management. Then the incident reports are or near misses, they're managed in incident management. And process documentation is where your library resides on the operating procedures and working and written out working instructions, etc. Now, important is that those modules are not seen as silos. So that's why all of these modules in TenForce, they're built on the same platform. So it's one application. So you log in. And then, of course, depending on privileges, you have access as a user to all the necessary modules you need access to. And then another important point is that we want to make sure that users don't need to leave their operational context to access data that actually resides in different modules. So you don't want to explicitly navigate away from permit to work when you want to consult information on contractors. No, actually, when you are assigning contractor to, for example, a contractor to a work order, you really want to see the list of approved contractors that also have the necessary qualified staff for the type of work that you wanna execute. But so that will be something that that will be done straight in the permit to work module based on the predefined integrations that we have between these modules. Another approach that we take is using shared data, shared reference data, that actually makes sure that also you can create connections between modules because different modules are using the same shared data. And it's also a way to reduce redundant administrative work because it prevents that users need to, when you really are paper-based, that you need to rewrite the same things on different permits, for example, each time. And this is cumbersome work, not adding a lot of value, and it would prevent people from focusing on their actual important content of their work. So I'm not going to go in all the details of these modules, but there are two examples that I wanted to highlight. First of all, on the permit to work. So I wanted to show you a view on the risk assessment of a work order. So basically, the approach we took here is that you have in your reference data actually a predefined set of hazards that you link to job categories. So depending on the job that needs to be executed, it's different hazards that you can define as default hazards that need to be assessed. So for a welding job, those there are particular hazards that will typically occur. And similar also in linked to locations. So if you're executing work in a storage tank, then also there will be specific hazards that apply there. So what we do in our tool, if you create a work order for a certain type of work on a certain type of location, then the system will automatically generate and present all the hazards, a combination of that context, and will present that to the work order responsible. So what he then needs to do is running through it, and assessing which one are effectively applicable for the given situation. It would also be possible to add manually additional hazards if the ones that are generated by the system based on the reference data are not complete for that given situation. But it's definitely much more efficient than having to go through a paper-based process. Also, you can copy information from previous jobs with that was executed on a similar location or a similar type of work. So you are not only relying on the knowledge of the specific person who needs to assess the work order, you're actually also taking advantage of the data that is already in the system. And so as a next step, once you have assessed those risks, the system will, in a similar way, present to you the controls that apply for those risks that have been set as applicable. And then again, also the work order responsible can assess which controls to put in place for this specific situation. And then as a next step, the system will generate the necessary permits. So it can be one or multiple ones. So again, that is based on the assessed risk, on the assessed controls, that you might have only one general permit, or it's a combination of a general one, including a hot work permit or a confined space permit, and so on and so forth. So that's a first example of how we handle that. Second example I wanted to give is shift management, because shift management can be really an interesting module as that acts a bit as a linking pin between to offer data that resides in different modules and presents it in a consolidated way to your operational people. So this is your shift log with some general shift details. There on this first page, you're logging your applicable observations, the ones that you want to log because it's important in your communication towards the next shift, for example. Right here, you can switch to the overview of your tasks. So you actually switch a tab, and there you see the overview of instructions, actions, measurements. And so as said, these can be predefined recurring actions. You can link it to every day in the week that shift needs to do these inspections or these checks. But so without having to navigate away from your operational context, you can consult the incident reports. So that's the third tab here. So again, because we are using that shared data, it's possible for the system to present all the incidents or the near misses that occurred within your area. So you don't need to navigate away and actually go to incident management to consult them. No, you get them presented here. You can enter the details via the screen. And also, if you would need to create a near miss or an incident in your area, you can do it straight here. So it will then be initiated and created in the incident management module, and the process of validation, investigation, and so on will be handled there. But within your shift management module, you can initiate that process and get it moving. And then finally, so similar to your connection with data and incident management, you also have easy view on the on ongoing activities like work orders, installation plans, so that reside in permit to work or in isolation management. You see straight here a view on of the status of these work orders, and you can via this also link further to the permits to see if all necessary permits are approved, etc. So yeah, that concludes a bit my presentation on how we approach this from TenForce point of view. So back to you, Tom.
Cheers. So if we move on to the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the business case for control of work solutions. And what I really want to focus on, and what I want to reiterate from that previous piece from Mikael, is stressing the importance of getting an integrated system, right? Connectivity and interoperability within your system across control of work is really the kind of so central to unlocking the potential of these digital tools, and really enables you to embed them into your operations across the board. Right, I want to highlight a few good examples Mikael mentioned, right? The ability to draw on contractor credentials as you initiate the permit, making sure that everyone there is competent and ready to do the job at hand. As well as that, the shift management piece, making sure you're fully aware of what's going on and your wider surroundings. And this allows you to account for those jobs happening. If there's work happening overhead, okay, a whole new risk picture. If you're doing kind of welding, that's fine. But if you're doing welding and there's a delivery of natural gas at the same time, right, you're going to have to work around that and schedule differently, or at least account for those risks. Another one, access to standard operating procedure, right there, making sure you're familiar with everything going on, as well as that micro learnings and trainings to familiarize yourself with a particular asset that you may have not worked on before. That's so critical for contractors who may be kind of working here for the first time. As well, the access to recent incident data in kind of areas associated with a particular job, or kind of incidents that are linked to a certain job type, right? Really useful to look over, assess when you're doing your your risk assessment. Gives you a real context of what can go wrong. And I think this is great, but being able to kind of do this all through the context of a particular job without having to navigate away too far. Everything is related to this particular job, and that is kind of what enables people to be laser focused on the safe operating procedure throughout this, right? It doesn't go away. You can't navigate away. You don't have to navigate away to get any of this data. It's all right there on site, and it is all focused on this one task. And what this really does, if you're building the business case, especially for safety, is for operators, it makes them, one, hyper aware of those inherent risks, as well as the controls that they have to put in to mitigate them effectively and manage them effectively. I think two is that wider awareness. Okay, it's great being focused on this particular task and having kind of everything nailed down there, but not having that situational awareness of what's going on around you and accounting for that is going to lead to kind of risks happening. So that wider awareness is huge. And three, that kind of just boosting competency and that reaffirmation of doing procedures right. And I want to go back to contractors, right? We're seeing more and more work being carried out by contractors in organizations, and they're a huge source of risk. I think contractor incidents are 3 to 4 times more likely than those incidents from full-time employees. So just giving that boost and that familiarization of a particular asset, a particular isolation process is really kind of so useful in that scenario. If we move on to the next slide, I want to show another excerpt from one of our surveys. This time it's from a survey of in our operational excellence practice. And instead of EHS managers, this is operations managers and operational leaders, site managers, for example, across a range of industries. And what I want to get at is a lot of people here may be kind of EHS professionals, operational professionals, and on your own, this may seem kind of a big change management, ambitious project to deliver, right? Deploying a digital control of work solution. Well, I think one of the main differentiators between this project and other kind of safety related projects or operational related projects is that the ROI is beneficial across kind of both parties. And you can see here kind of we asked how significant are the following benefits delivered from using control of work software. And you can see the benefits are pretty significant across all of these different industries, right? And they're both operational efficiency focused and safety. So that duality of the business case and the ROI allows stakeholders to collaborate more effectively and kind of drum up support for this across different parties. And two, it makes it far easier when you're going to make this case to executives as to why we should have this in place. So yeah, you can see here things like saving labor cost, man hours saved, rise in worker productivity, standardization, all things related to efficiency, as well as that risk management, that process safety, improved contractor safety. So it's both safety and operational efficiency here that can take a huge boost from implementing control of work. If we move on to the next slide, I just want to touch on, before I hand back to TenForce and Mikhail about their approach to implementation, what we do at Verdantix when a corporate comes to us and they want to kind of make that jump from traditional safety to kind of a more process safety, operational risk control of work digitization project. So if we jump to the next slide, this is kind of a pretty standard set of 6 considerations we always run through with these clients. And I want to make sure that you are very aware of this before you start your journey. And this is something we do as consulting projects all the time for corporate clients. The first thing we want to start on is functional alignment, right? Is mapping your goals, not just your goals now, but your goals in 5 years' time to technology and what you're trying to achieve. And Verdantix can very much help you understand what functionality is relevant to your business, understand kind of what vendors in the space can deploy that type of functionality, and how it's going to impact your operations. So I think firstly is to familiarize yourself with what is out there and understand kind of what it can do for your business. An element of this as well is understanding which vendors are aligned to your industry, right? We talked about oil and gas and how solutions related to oil and gas majors will be kind of very complex. If you're a manufacturer, this is going to be overkill for your process. It's going to kind of, if we look to pricing and implementation a bit later down the line, it is going to kind of skyrocket both the pricing and complexity of that implementation. So you've got to be very conscious that the vendor knows how to implement and has implemented to your industry before, and that their solution matches the level of sophistication of your industry in terms of complexity. So if you nail these first 2, user experience is boosted massively, right? And if we get back to this whole kind of concept of getting data to the end user and being able to digitize that process, make that process more efficient, you should not overlook user experience. And a lot of the time, it's the most simple, easy to navigate tools that are kind of turn out to have the best user experience rather than colors everywhere and clutter. So that's one thing we do and assist firms with. So don't just have your safety managers, your operational managers doing these demos. Make sure that you get end user support and buy-in. Number 4 is existing tech stack. We want this solution to fill in, and we want integration, we want that interoperability, we want that connection. So how does it relate to your existing tech stack? How does the solution itself integrate with itself, right? You can see the TenForce solution, very integrated, different modules, clear lines of integration, all packaged together. Some other solutions are not, and they're more specialized modules that take a bit more work. Some solutions have kind of native integrations with certain business intelligence tools, and kind of have APIs already built out for your surrounding systems, your ERPs, your work order management systems, etc. Do your due diligence on what this vendor can offer, and kind of ultimately 5 and 6 are kind of done for then. You've streamlined and you've done your due diligence, so the implementation is going to be as painless as possible. It's still going to be a challenge, but it's going to be streamlined. And also, you're not paying for something that is kind of too complex and is designed for, as I said, one of these big oil and gas majors that is going to be totally overkill. Kind of if you don't do this due diligence, you get to a point where that implementation and kind of pricing just makes it untenable to deliver this digitization. So with that, I'm going to pass back over to Mikhail and TenForce. I just want to stress once again that there'll be a Q&A session after this, so get your questions in. The more challenging, the better for us. So I'll pass back over now.
Okay. Thanks, Tom. So yeah, I'm gonna quickly zoom in a bit on how we tackle implementation barriers. So I'm gonna focus on our built-in flexibility. Gonna mention or explain our starter packs, highlight some things on the user experience, and then also talk about the integrations. So first of all, you might have been a bit overwhelmed by the architecture of the different modules that I showed you earlier, but I want to reassure you that we support fully flexible growth paths. So you don't need to start with all of these modules in one go. So you can start with one module and later on extend it with other modules. I have a brief use case from one of our clients where I'm going to highlight their approach on this. So you can go for a starter pack or a fully customized way. We have actually our platform is a generic workflow action management platform, so we can really tailor and configure things according to your dedicated workflows if you want that, or you can go for our starter packs. So we'll elaborate a bit on that in the next slide. Also, there's flexibility in one site versus multiple sites, and also within time, you can start with a pilot site and then roll things out to multiple sites. As for deployments, there we also have different approaches. Centralized is what we call when we are implementing actually a templated solution. So we have a templated permit to work, for example, and then each site will get its own dedicated workspace, which is actually a copy of that template. So the workflows that are being followed, the screens and the process is the same. So the advantage, of course, is that it's just one implementation and it immediately is applicable for all sites. Also, if changes or extensions are made, it's just one implementation, and all of the sites that use or that follow the template, they will take benefit of it. But in certain cases, we know that there is a big difference between the processes applied for one site versus the other one, and then we can decouple those implementations, still have it on the same platform, so it will be the same application, but they have their own implementations. A hybrid solution is also possible, so it could be that you go for a centralized approach on permit to work, but a decentralized one on incident management, for example. That flexibility we offer. And so starter packs themselves, we have one for each module. So off the shelf, it's an end-to-end solution, straightforward. So you can start with this right off the bat. But they can also serve as a starting point for more elaborate configurations. A clear advantage, of course, a short lead time to go live, a harmonized approach. As explained, we have predefined integrations across these starter packs, and so the look and feel and the approach is aligned on across the different modules. And there's also industry alignment. So we have built these starter packs based on our experience of implementing these modules with our customers. So actually, you take advantage of the best practices that we took out of those implementations. Then next, we just want to highlight the great scoring we got from Verdantix with regards to our user experience. Not to be underestimated to get people onboarded into a new system. So especially our mobile platform got a great scoring, and also our intuitive and dynamic web interface was really appreciated. And then finally, I've already shown you the integrations that are available within the TenForce platform. But of course, our application is hardly ever an island within the IT landscape of our companies, of our customers. So we have extensive experience in integrating with ERP systems like SAP. So it's very common for work orders, for example, to synchronize data, but also with control systems or with reporting tools. So we have a certified Microsoft Power BI connector that can be used, but okay, we can also, of course, integrate with other BI tools. If I zoom in, or if I talk about a concrete use case, so this one of our clients is a paper and cardboard packaging company, and they went from paper-based to digitized permit to work and isolation management, and I think they really approached this very well in a way that we have good experience with. So in their first phase, they went for one particular module, so permit to work. They started from a starter pack, but they customized it. They kept a contained scope, so they focus really on their highest business value, and that also allowed quickly for validation in the field. That's really, especially in the area of control of work, it's really important you align with the operational people, because they will be the ones using it on a day-to-day basis. So it's important that they are on board with it. A specific change management aspect here. So we actually are generating as printouts permits that look almost the same as the paper-based ones that or the manually created ones that they used before. So they already are taking advantage of having the data in our system, and that it's no longer a manually written document, but it's generated. But the people recognize the documents as before, so it's a low threshold to get into the new way of working. And then a next phase in the project. Actually a next project after going live with this phase one. They detected continuous improvement based some things that needed to be improved. So really based on real life experience. So we made some extensions for some alternative flows, some additional checks or validation, bulk updates to make administration to go even smoother. That was phase two, and then phase three was introducing a second module, isolation management. Again, a starter pack, customized it on top of it also added an integration with the SAP system. So I think also important to say that even though they had customized the original starter pack, we are still able to make the integration work and connect the two modules functionally. So, and then finally, I wanted to give some tips on next steps. So how to prepare for implementing new control of work software. So it links back to some elements that Tom already highlighted as well. So business preparation, indeed, make sure your goals are clear and internally aligned. In software implementation projects, there will be boring implementation details, and it's always good to be really aligned on the main goals, because it will also give us the project team, the joint team on your side, on our side, the opportunity to focus, because we know these are the main goals that we want to achieve. So this is an interesting discussion on implementation that we're not going to have now because it doesn't fit the main goal. Reflect on your business processes. Implementing a new software is a good moment to do it. If you're a multi-site company, consider a pilot plant or harmonize processes up front. For sure we can support discussions, but if there's still a very large alignment to be done across plants, then it's good to start these things up front before including us as a vendor, and yeah, have all those discussions as well. Make sure to appoint key users. Make sure they have also the necessary time for the project. Then, with regards to change management, again, during implementing software, there will be decisions to be taken that will impact the actual operations. So make sure there is somebody who can play the role on your side to facilitate and manage those decisions. And that then also links with the alignment and validation with people on the floor. Yeah, I think I've already stressed that well enough. And then finally, plan for phased rollouts. We see it really as a good practice. Rather, so I call it the go than grow. Don't be afraid to make the jump. Do it soon enough. We've had some unfortunate experiences, especially on more corporate companies, where we've had long periods of discussions with a central project team, discussing a lot of different edge cases, and then once you go live or you go to the extended user acceptance testing, some obvious things highlighted by the people on the floor were not considered or not stressed well enough, and that's unfortunate. So rather go for a contained scope from the beginning. Go live and validate that implementation. So that concludes my message, and so we've reached the Q&A session. I don't know whether there are any.
Yes, thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, Tom. Yes, there were some questions trickling in. One of them being, how do you typically approach the involvement of contractors in the system in control of work processes?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it ties with your company security policy. So on our side, we are flexible to open up our system to, of course, all kind of users. We have quite an extensive privileges system working with user groups. So in a workflow, we can decide who gets to see what. So typically we would give access to the contractors that are assigned to certain work orders, and then they would be able to take part, for example, in the risk assessment. They would have access to obviously to the necessary permits. If there is a last-minute risk assessment on mobile, for example, they would be able to join that process.
Thank you very much for the answer. We hope that was clear enough. In case not, please come back for some more clarification. And then there is another question that I believe it's still for you, Michael. Is there an advice you can give on whether you should tackle this on the business side? Should you tackle this rather top down or bottom up related to control of work?
Yeah, good question. So again, I think I've stressed it's important to have validation from the people on the floor. Of course, it depends a bit on the context. If you have multi-site setup, then for sure there is a need for a top down, especially if things need to be aligned and harmonized. So it's, I think, important you're finding the right balance by making sure you're harmonizing things, but make sure you involve the necessary people, the necessary operational people, well in advance in the process.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have. Okay, we do have some more questions on the public chat now. So we have a question for Tom. Are there any particular trends you notice in the current market related to control of work? Is there more reliance on IoT or a different strategy in management?
I think the major trend that we are seeing is the adoption of these digital control of work tools outside of the industries we've typically seen them over the last 5 years. So what we are seeing was solutions previously were very tailored towards oil and gas, chemicals, very complex. However, there's a real demand for this in the manufacturing sector, in construction as well is another huge one, to name 2 examples. So there's this real demand for something that's not this oil and gas focused tool. It's something that's very kind of to the point, easily digestible for end workers, and can be scaled very quickly. So that is where we're seeing a lot of this growth is in with those industries, both for the safety aspects as well as the efficiency aspects. And we expect this to kind of be a lot faster growing than IoT at the moment, because of that adoption, ability to adopt. There is some applications of integrations with IoT, but for most firms in kind of the early adoption phase, we've really focused on selling the bedrock of good software processes, and then there is kind of from that point, that go and grow kind of mindset can take hold, and you can expand a bit more freely.
Thank you very much for your answer. Oh, a little follow-up. Does this also mean that fewer companies are opting for in-house development and rather rely on providers?
Yes, 100%. I think from my experience, there's a couple of large oil and gas firms that have done this themselves and have their own systems, but they have huge resources dedicated towards this, and these projects have kind of gone on for years and years and years. Ultimately, that's just not an option for a lot of firms. And I think that connectivity and ability to link everything together is something that specialist providers can offer a lot more straightforwardly and in a lot more compact format than in-house built solutions. So yeah, we're seeing that as a kind of a way more straightforward and kind of streamlined way of deploying a tool that can have an impact on site, compared to doing your own in-house development.
Okay, great. Well, I believe this concludes our webinar. Thank you very much for your preparation, for your participation. Thank you all for being here with us, and we wish you a very good rest of your day. See you next time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.